L1.1 Expressions and Variables. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to evaluate and write variable expressions. Let's first take a look at some vocabulary terms. Numerical expression consists of numbers and operations, such as plus, minus, divide, or multiply. So I could take any number, such as 5, and multiply it by 10, and that would be considered a numerical expression. I can also write this as 5, open parentheses, 10, close parentheses, or 5 dot 10. They all mean the same. Variable is a letter used to represent one or more numbers. So any letter in the alphabet, you could use it as a variable. Variable expressions are numbers, variables, or operations. Okay? And an example will be 3D. Evaluate is a very important term for the chapter 1. To evaluate means to substitute a number for each variable and then evaluate the resulting numerical expression. I will show you how to do this later. Verbal model is a problem using words as labels and using math symbols to relate the words. We will discuss these two concepts in greater detail later. These are the common words and phrases that indicate operations. The 4 familiar operations you have been working with are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. There are many ways to say addition. Plus, the sum of, increased by, total, more than, added to. Minus, for subtraction, the difference of, decreased by, fewer than, less than, subtracted from. And for multiplication, times, the product of, multiplied by, or simply the word of indicates multiplication. Division, divided by, divided into, the quotient of. Guided practice. Now I'm going to show you how to evaluate a variable expression when x equals 10 and y equals 4. Remember, evaluate means to substitute a number for each variable. So for x, I am going to substitute that in for 10. And for y, I am going to substitute that in for 4. So 10 plus 4 gives me 14. Number 2, x, 10, y, 4. So 10 times 4 gives me 40. Part B. Write a variable expression to represent the phrase. So here I give you 2 phrases, and I want you to write it as a variable expression. So 12 more than a number. 12 more than a number. It just means that there's 12 more. So n has to be first. Number 2, the product of 5 and a number. Product means multiply. So 5 times n. Part C. Write a variable expression that can be used to solve the word problem. You plan to divide the 120 players in a baseball league into teams with the same number of players. How many teams can you form? So you take 120 and divided by n. And n represents the number of players. Astronauts. In 2002, astronauts Carl Waltz and Dan Bursch spent 196 days in orbit. How many sunrises did they see? 1. An astronaut in orbit circles Earth every 90 minutes and sees 16 sunrises each day. Let D be the number of days an astronaut is in orbit. So I'm going to write that down. Let D equals the number of days and this astronaut sees 16 sunrises per day. Write a variable expression for the number of sunrises seen in D days. So 16 sunrises per day, that makes 16 D for the total number of sunrises. Two, identify the value of D for Waltz's and Bursch's 2002 space flight. So it said in the beginning that these two men, they spent 196 days in orbit. So D equals 196 days. 3. Find the number of sunrises Waltz and Bursch saw. So I'm going to have to take the numerical expression in 1, 16D, and substitute in 196 for D. And after doing the math, you should get 3,136 sunrises. Music competition. The double bar graph shows 3 students' scores in a music competition. A student's final score is the sum of the points for the technique T and for interpretation I. A. Write a variable expression for a student's final score. So it says here in the word problem that the sum of the points for the final score is technique T plus interpretation I. So I can just say final score equals T plus I. Part B, find each student's final scores. Okay, let's look at A, 30 and 40. Gives you 70. B, you have 40 plus 20. 60. C, you have 30 plus 50. That will give you 80. Part C, you earn 35 points for technique. At least, how many points must you earn for interpretation to have a higher score than students A, B, and C? From part B, you can see that person C or student C has the highest score. So you can use this 80. Okay, you can use the 80 as the lowest score to compare to your score. So if your interpretation, if your technique, if you earn 35 points for technique, what must you earn for interpretation so that the sum of 35 plus I is greater than 80? So I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides to get 45. So you need at least 46 points. Okay, here's some more practice for writing variable expressions when you're given a phrase. Okay, this is highly important to solving word problems, so I would really pay close attention to the wording. So for the first set, we're only going to deal with one operation. Remember, you have add, subtract, multiply, and divide. 2 plus a number. The sum, which means add, okay, of a number and 2. To increase by a number. To more than a number t. So this has to be t plus 2. This is saying that there are 2 more than the number t. So that's why we need to switch or write the t first. This is very important. The difference of 2 and a number. 2 increased by a number p. 2 fewer than t. So this is saying there are 2 fewer than the number t. So this is very important. T goes first. 2 less than the number t. Again, t is first. Two subtracted from 2. T, I mean. So same thing. T minus 2. The 2 is being subtracted from t. Okay, now we're going to look at multiplication. There's a typo here. It's product, not produce. The product of 2 and a number. Okay, product means multiply. Quotient means divide. The quotient of a number and 2. So the n has to be on top, and then followed by the fraction bar over 2. And the quotient of 2 and a number. So 2 will be in the numerator and n will be in your denominator. Okay, let's take a look at a few with 2 operations, meaning you're going to have to, your final answer would involve a combination of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Okay, so for the first one, 2 minus the quotient of t and 6. So t over 6. And for the next one, it would be 7 divided by the quantity of c minus 5. C minus 5. So quantity means amount. So you could have 7 divided by, you could just use a fraction bar, the quantity. So we need to put parentheses around c minus 5. Because we need to first subtract c, the difference of c and 5 first, before you can perform a different operation. 4 less than the quantity. Okay, so 4 less than some quantity. 6 times a number n. 3 times the sum. So sum of 7 and a number y. And the next one, the difference of 22 and the square of a number m. So m squared. 7 less than twice a number k. 5 more than 3 times a number w. And then 8 more than 3 squared. So that's all. And the last few are a little bit more challenging. You can watch this part of the video once again to familiarize yourself with the wording, as it will help you with future word problems. And that concludes the lesson.